most controversial yet nicest, apparently off the court, athlete in America who has been on the receiving end of throat punching, nudges, noogies, eye poking, all from the African-American angry lesbian sisters. Well, she gave a lengthy opening statement over the holiday weekend, reaffirming, and it depends how you want to take her statement. Here's how I take it. Reaffirming she believes it was a flagrant foul, an intentional act, mind you, by Alyssa Thomas.
Caitlin Clark has been on the receiving end of throat punching, nudges, noogies, and eye poking. The most controversial yet nicest athlete in America finally spoke out over the holiday weekend, and her words cut through the noise like a dagger. But what she said, and more importantly, what she didn't say, exposed the WNBA's deepest, darkest fault line. This isn't just about one flagrant foul by Alyssa Thomas against Caitlin Clark. This is about a league at war with itself. A league where its greatest star, Caitlin Clark, is being targeted on the court while being expected to stay silent off it. A league where the standard isn't protecting players, it's protecting a narrative. Caitlin Clark stood before the cameras and delivered a message that will echo through the WNBA for years. She called out the officiating. She demanded better protection for every player in the league. She acknowledged the online hate she's endured. And she declared without hesitation that Alyssa Thomas's throat punch was a flagrant foul, an intentional act. But Caitlin Clark's moment of truth came at a devastating crossroads. Her own coach, Stephanie White, had already told the world this isn't a real basketball league. This is an arm of the LGBT community about marginalized people and causes. And now Caitlin Clark is trying to convince us this is a real league that needs real referees, real accountability, and real consequences. The saga of Caitlin Clark continues, and the entire sports world is watching to see if the WNBA's greatest talent can survive a league that seems determined to break her.
So, first of all, I know what you guys are going to ask, and I did think it was a flagrant foul, and our reffing just needs to be better, and it's tough. Obviously, the refs are in a really difficult spot. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world, in my opinion, is to make calls. All you do is get yelled at the whole time by everybody. You're never winning. So I think for us, as the league's just got to do better protecting our players in that regard. I don't really think that it was up for debate. Obviously, it wasn't called in real time. You go back and watch the clip. I think it's pretty.
Caitlin Clark didn't mince words. She told reporters, "I did think it was a flagrant foul." But then Caitlin Clark expanded beyond the single incident, taking aim at an officiating structure that's been failing for 3 years. Caitlin Clark said, "It's kind of been a discussion for 3 years now, and I think we really need to do a better job protecting the people in this league." Think about what Caitlin Clark just admitted. This isn't new. Caitlin Clark herself said she's been involved in several of these plays, but here's what makes Caitlin Clark's statement so devastating. She made it clear the problem isn't just one bad call. Caitlin Clark said, "Teams commit clips, nothing really changes. Nothing changes." That's Caitlin Clark exposing a league that refuses to protect its own. The immediate fallout from Caitlin Clark's comments sent shockwaves through the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's coach had already told the world this isn't a real basketball league. And now Caitlin Clark is standing there, throat still recovering from Alyssa Thomas's intentional act, demanding this league act like a real one. But here's the long-term strategic consequence that nobody wants to address. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA's only mainstream star. Caitlin Clark brings in the ratings. Caitlin Clark sells the tickets. Caitlin Clark generates the coverage. And the WNBA, led by players like Alyssa Thomas who physically target Caitlin Clark, is actively trying to humble her. They're trying to remind Caitlin Clark that she's not above anyone else. A former NBA team doctor told Fox Digital exactly how dangerous Alyssa Thomas's throat punch to Caitlin Clark really was. 20 pounds of pressure can damage the larynx. 20 pounds can close the airway. 20 pounds can create a life-or-death situation. And Caitlin Clark received a 1-game suspension for Alyssa Thomas. 1 game for a play that could have ended Caitlin Clark's career, or worse. Caitlin Clark's statement about the league needing to do better wasn't just about Alyssa Thomas. Caitlin Clark was speaking for every player who's been on the receiving end of a cheap shot that went unpunished. Caitlin Clark was calling out a culture that celebrates physicality over safety. And Caitlin Clark was warning the WNBA, "If you don't protect me, I won't be here to save your leg."
I think overall the league just has to do better, and we have to invest in those areas. The technology can get better. We can treat the referees a little bit better, pay them like they're full-time employees. I think things like that, and I think a lot has obviously come after that, and as I've stood up here and said before, like the harassment, the hate, none of that is okay.
Well, okay, couple of things there. Number one, Caitlin, your coach told us that this isn't a real basketball league, that this is a arm.
Caitlin Clark said, overall, the league just has to do better. But Caitlin Clark also said, the harassment, the hate, none of that is okay. And that's where the psychological warfare becomes crystal clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just battling Alyssa Thomas on the court. Caitlin Clark is battling an entire infrastructure that seems to resent her very existence. Think about the physical hurdles Caitlin Clark faces every single night. While Alyssa Thomas and others are delivering cheap shots to Caitlin Clark's throat, the referees are swallowing their whistles. While Caitlin Clark is being targeted with eye pokes and noogies, the league is pretending not to notice. And while Caitlin Clark is being physically assaulted, the narrative is shifted to online hate, as if Caitlin Clark invited it. But here's where it gets even darker. Caitlin Clark's own coach, Stephanie White, told the world this isn't a real basketball league. Stephanie White said the WNBA is about marginalized people and causes. So when Caitlin Clark speaks out about needing full-time referees and better protection, she's directly contradicting her own coach's characterization of the league. Compare Caitlin Clark's situation to previous league eras. The WNBA has never had a star like Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has never had a player who generates this much revenue, this much attention, this much mainstream interest. And the WNBA has never had a player who faced this level of coordinated targeting from jealous opponents. Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark's teammate, said something that cuts to the heart of this situation. If you're in the entertainment business, you're going to catch that kind of stuff. Sophie Cunningham understands what Caitlin Clark is going through because Sophie Cunningham has seen it up close. But Sophie Cunningham also knows something Caitlin Clark is learning the hard way. You can't whine and moan about the dark side of fame while cashing the checks. Here's the deep analytical breakdown that nobody wants to have. Alyssa Thomas, the player who throat-punched Caitlin Clark, has built her entire reputation on physicality. Alyssa Thomas is known as one of the toughest players in the league, but toughness has a line and Alyssa Thomas crossed it. When Alyssa Thomas delivered that blow to Caitlin Clark's throat, she wasn't playing basketball. Alyssa Thomas was sending a message, you may be the star, but you will never be one of us. And Caitlin Clark in her statement finally acknowledged that reality. Caitlin Clark told the world the harassment and hate aren't okay. Caitlin Clark admitted she has emotions and feelings. Caitlin Clark revealed that the targeting affects her more than she lets on. Caitlin Clark is 24 years old, navigating a world that wants her to be the savior of a league that seems to hate her.
20 pounds of pressure can damage the throat or larynx area. Even if you don't fracture the larynx, a blow to that area, you could get some swelling, bleeding, close the airway, and get into a very rapid life or death situation. But hey, that's all right. It's only worth a one-game suspension. There it is. There's the poster on every lesbian African-American woman's wall right now. There it is right there. Doesn't look like Caitlin Clark feels pretty good about it. But hey, only a one-game suspension.
20 pounds of pressure. That's all it takes to crush someone's larynx. 20 pounds of pressure from Alyssa Thomas's hand to Caitlin Clark's throat. 20 pounds of pressure from a former NBA team doctor's expert testimony. And the WNBA's response? One-game suspension for Alyssa Thomas. One game for a play that could have killed Caitlin Clark. The financial implications are staggering. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA's cash cow. Caitlin Clark's presence drives ratings through the roof. Caitlin Clark's jersey sales dwarf everyone else in the league. Caitlin Clark's commercials and endorsements make the WNBA relevant in ways it has never been relevant before. And yet, the league allows Alyssa Thomas to literally put Caitlin Clark's career in jeopardy with no serious consequences. But here's where team chemistry enters the picture. Caitlin Clark said in her statement, "It's a disservice to my team, but it's also a disservice to the other teams in this league." Caitlin Clark is trying to protect her teammates from the narrative. Caitlin Clark is trying to shield the fever from the controversy. Caitlin Clark is trying to redirect attention to the amazing talent in the league, but Caitlin Clark can't escape the fact that she is the story. Caitlin Clark said, "The technology can get better. We can treat the referees a little bit better, pay them like they're full-time employees." Those are reasonable demands from Caitlin Clark. Those are rational requests from Caitlin Clark. Those are the words of a 24-year-old who understands the business better than the people running it. But will the league listen to Caitlin Clark? Or will they continue to let Alyssa Thomas and others physically assault their biggest star?